I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a book club podcast.
We're reading it all with y'all.
What?
We're reading it all with y'all.
Okay. I didn't understand you at first. Yeah, this is episode 2 of Beacon 23.
It's good, man. It's getting
right along.
Getting better.
2/3 done.
Yeah.
It's I'm glad that it's as short as it is. Mm-hmm. Because there's not a lot happening.
Right, yeah.
And if this went on for as long as we did Neverwhere, then it would drive me crazy probably.
Yeah, it'd be boring to listen to.
By episode 4, I would be like, ready for it to be over.
Yeah.
It's like, the writing's good, and I'm enjoying it for the most part, but it's good that it's as short as it is.
Yeah, it even seems like there's a bunch of redundant chapters. Like, a few times he's just, like, relaying the same info, like, hey, just so you know, he is super like this, or whatever, you know, like... I don't want to say anything because we'll go over it, but...
Yeah, there does seem to be... And maybe it's just because the chapters are so short, it's easier for... I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, while he is reiterating the same things a couple of times, it's like 2 chapters are a conversation, and the general topic is how he's fucked up about such and such.
Yeah.
But each chapter is a different statement within that conversation.
Okay, I can see that. So you would bring up the same point even in a different conversation.
Potentially, yeah. Or just like the 2 points of the same idea in a conversation.
Oh, there you go.
Something like that.
Okay.
That's how I kind of feel about it. And it works more or less just because the chapters are short enough to make it work for that format to work.
Yeah.
But it's getting a bit too much. At the end of this section, there seems to be a bit of a breakthrough, so maybe we'll move on to another thing at this point. But who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, how was your week? When'd you read? How'd you read?
When did I read? I was trying to break it up, especially when I realized that we were going to need to record a day earlier than typical.
Yeah, recording on a Monday.
Yeah, on a Monday. It's Monday Night Football tonight, not baseball. World Series starts tomorrow.
But do we even really care?
We don't, because it's the Giants and the Falcons, and the Giants are terrible.
Aren't they the most popular team in baseball?
Oh, I'm talking about football right now.
Oh,
the game that's
I'm
on.
Sorry. I was back on baseball.
Baseball is Red Sox and Dodgers.
Oh, okay, so you kind of care.
Yeah, I'm a adopted Sox fan.
Yeah.
And I really don't like the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So I've got every reason to pay attention. It's a team I like and a team that I hate. So
my brother and I got into talking this weekend because I saw him on Sunday. We talked about baseball, and I don't think either of us really know that much about baseball. I mean, I've never even played it. Like, literally, I've never played a game. Like, I've seen games played, but that's it.
You didn't ever go out with us when we would go to the fields behind the high school?
Yeah, but we never even played a game then, really.
Yeah, we didn't.
It was just sort of
because none of us
Sam
could hit
throw the
for
ball
shit,
at you.
so,
yeah. And nobody could pitch either. It was like the few people that ever played baseball, like Sam, and if he could bring Chance along, which he usually could, so like they could pitch, but then nobody could really hit the ball. And
once in a while, like a ball got hit to first base, and then I was like, okay, well, you're out. So,
but we were talking, and my brother was like, I'm pretty sure that all professional sports are rigged. I was like, really? He was like, yeah. If you ask any Astros fan about the game, that like the turning game of like when they lost, there was a definite 2 runs that they should have still gotten.
No, that was, even as a big Astros fan, that's just fans being mad about stuff.
It probably.
So what happened was there was in the first inning, Jose Altuve hit what would have been a home run, but the umpires called fan interference.
Oh, what does that mean? They caught the ball or something?
Yeah, so Mookie Betts, who plays right field for the Red Sox, went up to try and grab it out of the crowd as it was landing in the crowd, which you can totally do. But he misses it, and there was fans that were trying to grab for it, and there was like a little bit of jostling. So like I get the argument of fan interference, so they gave the out rather than what would have been a 2-run home run, which would have changed the course of the game. Who knows if we would have actually won? Because
you never know.
You can't look at the end of the game and see, oh, they lost by 2. If they had that the 2-run home run, they would have tied it and taken it into extra innings and maybe won. No, because that changes the course of what happens after that.
Oh, for sure.
So who knows what happens? But in my opinion, fan interference is a stupid fucking rule because you're already going up to steal an out back, basically. So if you've got to reach into the crowd to steal that out, then you've got to deal with what's in the crowd. So even if it had been something, if it was the tables turned and it was fan interference and the Sox didn't get the home runs and got out, I still would have said that's bullshit. I hate the ruling of fan interference. I think that's a garbage fucking rule. But yeah, in any case,
Yeah.
there probably is some degree of rigging in sports. I mean, there more or less is. A long time ago, there was a head coach in football that got in a lot of trouble for. No, I'm sorry, baseball who got in a lot of trouble for betting while he was the head coach of the Cincinnati Reds. So, there's a lot of question as to whether or not he would put his best lineup out on some nights if he had a bet going on that game, things like that. So obviously that sort of stuff does happen, but it's not to the degree
some plays that are questionable. Like, why would he save that guy when we could still be using him? And,
right? Yeah.
Okay, I could see
There's some question as to whether or not that actually happened. He says it didn't. That he was just addicted to gambling and continued to do it while he was head coach. But how can you trust him?
Yeah, especially if you got your foot in the game, like, and you can actually change the course of like you winning or losing. Like, of course you're gonna mess with it. Like, of course.
But it's not to the degree that any distraught fan will have you believe that it is.
So you said you spread out your reading throughout the week?
Yeah. I tried to start earlier, knowing that it would be a day earlier.
Yeah. I
think I probably read like 3 or 4 chapters each night, starting like on Thursday night or something like that, as opposed to procrastinating. Like I tend to. Like I usually procrastinate on everything, so.
Okay.
But I spread it out a little bit more than I did on my notes today. Thankfully, doing notes on the day of recording is a lot easier with this book because you can just blaze through that shit with everything being as short as it is. Mm-hmm. And there not being a lot that happens in any given chapter. It's mostly dialogue and introspection.
Yeah, and even self-introspection, it seems like. Introspection?
Introspection is always self-introspection.
I just did an intro, I don't know, like I don't know.
Yeah, they're all different.
Yeah, no, it seems like there's a lot of pieces in the book that it makes you just, like, you stop and you have to think, like, kind of about yourself, like, if you were in that situation, and then is this guy going crazy or not still? Because it almost feels like he still kind of is going crazy as we're reading, but, well.
That's definitely something that we have to keep in mind the whole time, because he's done it already.
Did you do anything fun this week, though? Just work and read.
Just working, reading, football,
playing typical American week.
What's going on with you?
Well, we did the podcast on Tuesday, and then I didn't listen to it on the way home, or even that next day. I just sort of spent the next couple of days just like, okay, I'm going to listen to whatever I want. So I started listening to other podcasts, and yeah, just super normal work week. It sounds like some drama is going down at some of the other stores, but my store's still good. So, and
it's always fun to hear about other stores and what's going on.
Yeah.
That happens in Best Buy up here because there's several Best Buys,
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit that was going down at Bee Cave about 6 months ago, and that was fun to get through the grapevine.
Yeah. A little bit of gossip. It almost feels like high school again. Like, so high school when I'm gossiping about each other. But, yeah, that was cool. And then there was this like work party or whatever that they were having like during the day, and I thought it was going to be awful with like really loud live music and just like awful annoying games and like tons of people and just nobody happy. But it was nice. It was just one dude with like an acoustic guitar that they plugged into a little amp, and he was just chilling playing soothing music, and it was nice. And then Sunday I went to go visit my brother because he has old doors that we turned into doggy doors.
Oh yeah.
So he doesn't have a dog, and I've got a lot of dogs. So I went to go get the dog door from him, and dude, I don't know if I have a freaking custom door size on the house or what, but I think the door is 2 feet 6 inches, and the door that I have, like the door that's on the wall or on the house, is 2 feet 6, and then the one that I have with the door in it is 2'7". It's like, wait, but it's like a metal door, so it's not like I can just cut off a piece.
Right, yeah, it's way harder to mess with.
But anyway, so I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. So yeah, and then I went to go, I was in Houston, hung out with my brother. He gave me a cool flashlight, and we just sort of like hung out and exchanged. And he actually gave me a bunch of little things just that he had.
Stuff that he's got laying around.
Yeah, I think he's
usually got a lot of stuff laying around.
Yeah, he's whenever he like upgrades something of his, I think he gives me the first gen,
Yeah, right.
Which is still awesome because I got this generator, so now I've got a generator at the house, and I got a 3D printer, which he actually gave me, and he didn't upgrade. I thought he upgraded. He just gave it to me because he's like, well, you've done a lot of CAD stuff. It'd probably suit you better than me. I was like, man, that's kind of fun. Maybe I can build some.
Right,
we'll build our D&D figurines or something. With
right.
Them. Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would actually be really handy.
Yeah, and then so I listened to the book on Sunday mostly. I listened to it a little bit during the week, every now and then. But
we'll probably drive out to Houston.
Yeah, that was where I did most of it, and I was really able to focus because there was like a lot of just long 80 miles and then stay on 290. You know?
Right. Because
So
he's up like on the north side, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy, like 3.5 hour drive from.
It was
Well, I
it
guess
was
you're on the north side of Austin, so it's a little bit.
in the east side of
Yeah,
Austin,
that's
too,
true.
so.
I'm thinking about from here. Yeah, that's probably a little bit easier.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 hours to get out there, but it was nice. And there were a few parts that I think I missed while I was working because I didn't stay fully focused.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely a thing. Like, I definitely did a better job of staying focused. Also, I didn't have to, like, really remember all the new things because I sort of had a foundation for what the story was. So I feel like it's always going to be easier for me, episode 2, where I'm going to be like, all right, I know what's going on. Nothing's going to slip past me now. So listen to it then, and then I listened to it today at work. Just a typical work day, super easy day. So that was my week.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it was a good week. And then the book was getting... It's probably staying about the same good. I was said earlier that it was getting better, but I think it's probably about the same to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it got exciting a little bit every now and then, but
yeah, I think in the way that all the different stories aren't particularly related, that helps it to just sort of like be able to just maintain at a pretty constant level instead of going up and down.
Yeah, because he released it as 5 books, so I'm sure each one of those had to have the full plot structure of a book.
Yeah,
or, maybe without the full resolution that you come to expect. But so we did chapters 13 to 24 through 24.
Through 24.
Cool. You want to get into it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So chapter 13 starts off where obviously we left off. Vlad's about to dock with the beacon. So Mitch and Protag are waiting for him at the other airlock. So, look, I don't really want either of you on my beacon. Vlad boards. There's some talk about the bounty. Same interaction he had with Mitch. But, essentially, almost immediately after that interaction happens, the proximity alert goes off again. Ding dong. And Protag, Mitch, and Vlad go to Vlad's cockpit this time to see who's there. There's a third bounty hunter who doesn't talk. The Mitch and Vlad who know who she is and seem to respect her.
Yeah, they seem to show a lot of respect for her. It seemed like mostly it was O'Shea that showed a lot of respect for her. But,
Mitch is the only one that says anything about it.
But
I think Mitch is just like, I don't like this, and Vlad says, I don't either.
Yeah, I think Vlad just got all tense, so you could tell it was making him clench his butt.
And then Protag is like, who is that? Do y'all know her? And then Mitch has like a little thing about her. He says, yeah, I think I worked with her once or got to see her work once.
Yeah, we've ran into each other a couple times.
Something like that. Vlad doesn't say anything.
But yeah, they talk a lot about just like bad things come in threes. That's like how they started this whole book off. And here are 3 things that is just like right off the bat. 3.
Protag sees that the third bounty hunter ship is doing a Morse code thing with its lights because she doesn't talk.
Yeah,
giving off the same message that Vlad and Mitch said. I've got a warrant.
Yeah, I want to dock.
Doing marshal stuff. Blah blah blah. So Protag says, "Okay, well, y'all go ahead and take off. She wants to dock." And I don't have any more docking space.
Yeah, no more space. So he ships him off. O'Shea asks if he can get a head start.
Bribes him with a bit of money.
Bribes him with a little money and just
Federation money.
Yeah,
is what it calls it. So now we know that the government's called the Federation.
Which
probably won't matter,
name.
but what a typical sci-fi government name.
Yeah, didn't even really try all that hard, but that's all right. So, yeah, Federation money. Currency, I think they said. Mm-hmm. Third vessel lands once the other 2 fly off, and they're waiting there for their data to get beamed to them. Mm-hmm. And we find out that it's a ninja that's there. And, I think they meet in the airlock, and he has a little memory about this show called Urban Ninja. And I did Google it right there. I was like, is there a show called Urban Ninja? No, there's no Urban Ninja Detroit. That sounded dope, though.
Right. That's a show I would watch.
I would watch it, too. I was going to watch it. I was like, man, I'm not even going to keep reading. I'm going to go switch over to Urban Ninja. And then it's just like
Ninja Detroit.
It's just a pretend show he made up.
Yeah.
I guess that's pretend. You don't have to say both. But yeah, so, so he really likes this ninja girl. He ends up making her smile because she just laughs because he's obviously been through the routine of what bounty hunters want. They want to know if you've seen their bounty, and they want you to give them all their ship logs and data, and then also was there a third thing? Or is it just those? Doesn't matter. I mean, they all said the same thing. Yeah. They want their data. And,
he knows what the routine is at this point.
Oh, and a head start. That's what she wanted. She wanted a head start too. That was the third thing.
Yeah.
He ends up giving her the first lead to the head start, then O'Shea, then
I think he sends it immediately when we get to that point. But I think what happens is he sends it to Ninja, then sends it to Mitch 5 minutes later, and then 20 minutes later to Vlad. Yeah. Is how he works out the deals that he worked out without the others knowing or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
but I guess that didn't even happen yet. They just...
He agrees to all that, and then Ninja leaves.
Yeah, Ninja leaves.
Protag goes back to the command center to start beaming everybody the scans and logs, and the woman from the wanted posters is sitting in the chair.
She says, "Those assholes gone?" That was what she said. The woman sitting in the command chair, girl from the flyer. Chapter 14. Jesus, Scarlet, what the hell are you doing here? So we know that he knows her. He's been lying to these bounty hunters. Knows her pretty well because he knows her by first name. He didn't just say, "You're the girl in the bounty," or on the wanted pictures, you know?
I saw you one time in the cantina. Yeah, it's somebody that he obviously knows and knows personally.
Yeah.
He has a little internal dialogue trying to figure out how she got there. She likely stowed away on Mitch's ship and got off Mitch's ship whenever they went into Vlad's ship to check the third thing. And figures that she was probably the source that gave the tip to the bounty hunters to let them know that she was there so that she could get there. Because she stows away on Mitch's ship with the purpose, we find out, of finding him.
Yeah, our hero. Because she needs him to be a hero.
Yeah. Apparently had some old romantic relationship from back when they were both in the army. She seems to know how to get the truth out of him. I guess doesn't seem to know. He explicitly says that he always ends up telling her the truth. She talks like every annoying revolutionary freedom fighter in every story ever.
Seriously, it's very, like, if you can imagine what Will just said, like, just, you don't need to you can skip chapter 14.
You can skip this chapter. Imagine all the stereotypical things that a freedom fighter, that a starry-eyed freedom fighter says in any story, and that's the same thing that she says.
We also kind of learn of the fascination that it seems like the author has with girls in red-ish hair, because this first girl...
This is one of two.
Yeah, sorry. Spoiler alert. Yeah, so there's this girl has red hair. Scarlet has, just like her name, I guess.
Yeah. She seems to believe that the Protag can help end the war.
Yeah, I want you to end this war. She is dead serious. I think those are the last words of chapter 14.
In chapter 15, Scarlet gives her pitch, trying to sell this idea. She brings out this old paperback book that's part of a series that's popular with what the Protag describes as... It's basically like required reading in the trenches. Yeah,
it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's that book that everybody hands around that like everybody's read. I don't know, what was the book that we all handed around growing up, like that everybody had read? I can't even think of one.
A lot of us read the Redwall series.
Yeah, that's true. I tried to get into it because of you guys, you and Blaze and Dakota and all them.
I really liked it. I still like it.
Cool.
I haven't checked to see if any of them come out lately. If any of them have, I need to get on that shit because I like those books a lot.
Yeah, Brian Jakes,
same author, did the Castaway of the Flying Dutchman.
That series was really good.
I really like that series too.
But
anyways,
yeah, this series.
This series is about the war that's going on, or at least the early parts of the war. Maybe this war has been going on for 100 years at this point. Who fucking knows?
Yeah, it seems like they did kind of give us a little bit of insight to the war. It is still going on. It still might not be the same war that he seemed to end.
Yeah,
but that could have just been a battle in the war.
Yeah, it might have just been the battle that ended in his thing, or maybe there was an armistice after that. So there was just like a temporary truce in the war. Who knows? There's not a lot of details given, and I think for the better. We don't need to get bogged down with those.
Did you write down the name of these books that they handed out to each other? I don't know.
I did not write down the name.
Yeah, me neither. It's just when she pulls out a copy of the book, Scarlet, she shows our protagonist
it's a specific book. He immediately knows what it is.
Yeah, he's like, I recognize that. She starts to flip it over, and he's like, and the bald crest of the author's head started to show through his like, I don't give a shit face or whatever he said it was his description. And then she's like, this guy's not even real.
Yeah. She starts talking about the author and how he doesn't actually exist, and how the stories are actually repurposed Reef stories, and how humans are the alien invaders, and how humans created this war because of all the bullshit stuff that we, the readers, all already know about humanity and all intelligent life not being able to exist without conflict, except for the enlightened few that make up the resistance that will save all of existence by exposing the truth that everyone already knows.
Like Scarlet.
Yeah, like Scarlet. It's just the same sort of... The freedom fighter finds some revolutionary truth that nobody ever knew, and this is gonna, blow everything wide open and blah blah blah. It's about how humanity and the man is fucked up, and they're doing it because of this reason, blah blah blah. It's just the same. I think this is like probably has all the same sentiment that the the few speeches that are in like Fight Club have
Mm-hmm.
the same sentiment that is in, I mean, basically everything that has ever happened. Anytime you get some sort of like a revolutionary situation going on that's not based on a real story or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
this is the same dialogue that happens every single time. And these kinds of characters are super fucking annoying to me.
She did tell a kind of cool little story about how when she started researching the book and the author, how
the actual author was like
he was a translator,
a top level CIA operative or something, whatever the equivalent is for the military of this universe, and he was a reef translator, found those books.
Yeah, and then he just stole them.
Yeah, stole them and then repurposed them so that they could be used. In fact, what she's getting, she doesn't outright say it, but what she's getting at is that it's being used as propaganda to paint an image of the reef as being the bad guys so that humanity doesn't feel bad about the war that's going on.
Exactly, because when they end up talking about those stories, she just says, like, just switch the characters, like, make us them and them us, and that's the war that we lived through. Like, that's literally what happened, you know? Like,
and then there's a little bit where she talks about, and I went and looked at all the other aliens that we've made contact with and looked through their culture, and they've all got pop culture stories about invading aliens and blah, 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 blah. And then even the protagonist is like, I mean, we're all afraid of what's out there in space because we don't know what's out there in space, so fucking duh. Yeah. And then she immediately is just like, no, what that means is some other bullshit about fear. And then he immediately buys into it. But I'm fear. Like, and he immediately buys into that. It's like, oh, no, yeah, you're right. Like, no, I mean, obviously everybody's going to write. We haven't met aliens at all yet. We're, unless Area 51 and all that shit. But all of our pop culture about aliens is that they're going to come invade us. Mm-hmm. So, fucking duh. Yeah. It's just like, this is so cheap, in my opinion. This whole, like, revolutionary argument thing happening here is just cheap.
Yeah, it did kind of seem like a quick little, just... like he was writing this book and he's like, all right, I need to make the
this is a plot vehicle.
Seem, like I need to make him seem like he's worth more than he is because I'm making everybody kind of not like him that much. And then
I don't even know if it's just that, because the only one that really believes in him to this degree is her for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess not for whatever reason.
He doesn't even believe in him. He's like,
it's just like a way to get him to a point where he breaks down more, so that he can then get fixed up a little bit more and have the further breakthrough that he has later on, because nothing's going to happen of this rebellion, at least not in this set of stories. If this universe continues in another set of stories that the author wrote, then sure, we might visit this again. But this has nothing to do with anything else that's going to happen in this in
at least
23.
With these guys. So during chapter 15, Scarlet starts weaseling info out of our hero or the protagonist, and she starts to get him to tell his true account of what happened D-Day, or
the last day he fought,
the last day he fought, and we learned that he's a little bit of a softie. Like he couldn't detonate the bomb to kill an entire race of things because
which is like
he
something
felt
that
bad for wiping it out.
It's something that he's already internally admitted earlier in the story,
right? Just
without the level of detail. Like we didn't know that it was a nuke that was in there. All that he has said previously was just and I could have made that final push to wipe out several hives,
and he would have killed himself.
But for some reason, he knew that, and he said that it would have taken him and 2 other platoons to do it.
Oh, because it would have wiped all of them out. Yeah, okay.
But for some reason, I didn't do it, and then that was the end of it.
And they were making it sound like that would have ended the whole.
It sort of made it seem like something happened, like he gets his injury and then comes to, and for whatever reason, something else happened that caused the battle to end that day.
Yeah, which I'm still a little confused about, but he's the one that made it out, and basically everybody else in Platoon B or the B squad or whatever.
Well, it's B Company.
B Company, thank
you. And then his squad of B Company gets wiped out.
Oh, there we go, okay.
But I think what ends up finishing the fight for that day was just the fact that the push happened at all, and the Reef were just, because I think it mentions it at some point, and the Reef were just like, shit, they're like, we're going hard today, we're gonna back off.
Yeah, that's because he even talks about, I don't know why they stopped, why they're cheering for those guys stopping killing each other that day, but they're just gonna kill each other tomorrow. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, he said the last sentence I think he said, he was like, well, not even the last sentence, but a sentence he says is like, I couldn't do it because of the hive.
Yeah, he was thinking about. He's thinking about, because I guess the hive is like a breeding ground of some sort or something like that. I mean, he has a thought about how he can't kill all those lives that haven't had the chance to do anything wrong yet, something like that. So it's like, you know, a bunch of
and that is such like a progressive point of view too, because like how often can you really sympathize with like the enemy? You know what I mean? Like it's so hard. It's so hard to put yourself in like their shoes and think like, would I be just like them? Like if I was in Nazi Germany during the time of the Holocaust, like would I have been adopted as a Nazi? And like, I mean, I would have had to do it probably to keep my family alive. You know what I mean?
Right,
like it wouldn't be just because like I love Jews. You know, like why would I? You know, and
there's so much context.
Yeah, there's so much. Yeah, it's really interesting.
That really changes how everything can be looked at in any given situation.
Right.
Which is easy to forget a lot of times.
And it seems like our guy is pretty open-minded, at least, and he's sort of empathetic. You know, like he thinks about like them as not just being the enemy, but being sentient and almost like worthy. Like they are as good as human because like they can fight us just as good as we can fight.
Like two common things that happen to soldiers in stories, and how, you know, relatable that is to actual life. I have no idea. I was never in the military or anything like that. I have several military friends, but I've never talked to them about this sort of thing. But as far as stories go, there seem to be two very common arcs that a soldier takes. They either see a ton of war and become hardened to it and just continue on with it, and, you know, they just kill on orders and don't care. Or they see a lot of war and then grow a new level of empathy because they get tired of all of the bad and all the violence that happens. Those seem to be the two predominant story arcs for a soldier in a lot of popular culture. Yeah. And he seems to be the latter, where he gets to a point where he's seen too much, he's lost so much, and he's just like, he's but the but at what cost? He's that guy, you know.
Yeah, he's kind of building himself in this little like mental prison, and then he kind of and then the beacon seems to be his little, you know, solitary confinement, like I said last week. You know,
it's him running away from everything, which he continues to talk about all the time.
And that's how you handle your issues in life. You just run from them.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
I ran to Austin, Texas.
Yeah, there you go. Don't face anything head on.
Chapter 16.
In the fog of his admission of him being a traitor, Vlad interrupts.
And I'm not going to do my terrible Vlad impersonation.
Oh, it was good. You should do it. I liked it. It was as good as the narrator in the book.
It's just imagine I sound like an Eastern European. Bounties, how many in ship? I find it hard to believe you'd make 2 bounties like this, but I'm going through ship scans and I see 3 warm on ship of yours. And I know you have no friends, no girlfriend. So how you get so lucky, boy of bacon? Yeah. Which is that's my favorite line so far, is boy of bacon. It's hilarious.
One thing that I think they said back in chapter 13 that I'm going to bring up right now, Vlad says, what happened arm or whatever, you know, like what happened, and our guy thinks he left out a non-critical word, which I thought was funny because that's probably how he talks now, having not talked to so many people. Like he probably forgets certain words, you know. Maybe he's like, he said everything. I think he couldn't even remember what the word was that he forgot, was the point. He said he left out a non-critical word, but like the point that he said non-critical was because he couldn't remember what word he said, like what word he was forgetting. At least that's the way I interpreted it. You know,
I think that's just his snarky humor, is the way that I looked at it.
Oh, okay.
He's been like, left out a couple of non-critical words there, buddy.
Well, he just thought that, didn't he?
Yeah, he just thought that, but I would imagine that he would think to himself in the same sort of snarkiness.
See, I thought it a little differently, but okay.
It's also just an interesting way to describe somebody that has broken English. Yeah. Leaving out non-vital, non-critical words, like, that's the perfect explanation of what they're doing.
Yeah, because, I mean, you got.
They get the main words that help you understand what it is they're talking about, but they're leaving out a the there or something like that.
Yeah, so Vlad calls him boy of bacon, and like, why do you have 3 life signals and now you only have 2?
So they're figuring out what happened. Yeah, the bounty hunters figure out what went on. Scarlett's like, shit. Yeah. Blows up Vlad.
Yeah, she apparently dropped a nuke or dropped a mine on Vlad's ship when she was hopping from O'Shea to the Beacon. Mm-hmm. And just while they were inside Vlad's ship, I guess, she just popped the nuke in there.
Drops a little mine in there.
Yeah, mine.
And the probably like the airlock or whatever is what protagonist theorizes. Yeah. So then Vlad blows up. Mitch starts heading towards the Beacon, hails the Beacon, and is like, hey, what's going on? Well, not what's going on, but like I'm coming.
Yeah, I'm coming to get you.
Blah blah blah. Scarlett takes the radio and says, "You need to turn around, or I'm going to blow you up." Mitch calls her bluff. He's like, "You're
You would have done it already.
You would have done it already, idiot. I'm coming." So then Scarlet ends up convincing protagonist to help her fight Mitch.
Yeah, right after she jokes about killing him too, she's like, "I'll kill this beacon operator if you come," and he's like, "For 50 or 50 whatever it is,
the 50 million credits or
yeah,
whatever it is, I'll kill him.
I'll
Fuck
shoot him
yeah,
for
I don't
you,
give a
yeah.
shit."
Yeah,
And so
I'm
then
a bounty hunter.
Scarlet convinces Protag to help her fight because he's a sucker.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. He's a sucker.
So they do all this preparation. Mitch docks and the fight starts. They incapacitate the Warthen.
Yeah,
Cricket,
Cricket.
That mountain lion dog thing.
Yeah, Cricket ends up coming through first, and they throw like a
There's
big old blanket over. We also learned that the protagonist has a soft spot for creatures and stuff too, because like he couldn't shoot Cricket. At least it seemed like that to me, because he instead he's like, I couldn't pull the trigger, but so I yelled, "Do it, just do it!" And she's like, "Oh, okay," and then she throws the blanket on the Warden, incapacitates it. O'Shea comes in. I thought he shot the blaster, and
O'Shea rolls in a flashbang.
Oh, that's what it was, a flashbang.
And so that's why he gets some distort. He can't figure out what's going on, and then he just kind of blind fires. Knows that he misses because he hears the sizzle of metal, so the blaster hit like the bulkhead or whatever. And then Scarlet takes the gun from him and starts shooting. And then there's a point where the protagonist has this little inner dialogue about how he remembers assuming that Mitch probably did most of his work on the ground and wasn't didn't have a sea leg, so to speak. So he hits one of his kill switches that he set up for the anti-grav. So then the grav goes out and he's floating around. So then Mitch throws up because he doesn't like the
he said it like it pulled up his stomach, so it made him feel like when they hit the 0G.
There was a lot of description of what it's like whenever you first hit 0G, but how it's like cresting a hill in your vehicle and catching a little bit of air. So Mitch loses his shit because he hates being in 0G, isn't used to it.
Yeah, just
throws up, and then there's I can't remember exactly what it is, but he does something with a grenade. It blows up. Mitch dies.
Yeah, I think it just the gravity fucks him up, because I'm pretty sure he goes to throw the grenade and then it doesn't throw, and he ends up swinging back to reposition himself because he gets twisted around because he tries to jump, and I think he gets stuck in the middle of the space because because he's floating, and then he doesn't know how to.
No, I think what happens is that protagonist shoots himself off to go tackle Mitch, and then they tussle a little bit. Mitch drops his gun, and then he reaches for it and grabs it, but protagonist had grabbed a grenade off of his bandolier or whatever and threw it at him, and then tried to get away or whatever. And I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
See, I thought
it didn't really matter.
I thought it was just a Butterfingers type situation. I thought, honestly, I thought O'Shea just kind of killed himself because he couldn't handle the anti-gravity, and he went to throw. I thought he went to throw a grenade, and it didn't really work. It threw him off balance, and then either way, he dies.
And then that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, that's the end. Chapter
17. The protagonist is still in the midst of getting blasted back onto the ship.
Still weightless, I think.
They figure out what to do with the war, then they release it onto Mitch's ship.
And put the gravity back on.
Close the airlock to Mitch's ship. They'll figure out what to do with the warden later. And then there's a little bit of talking, a little bit of romantic stuff going on, and then the ninja bounty hunter just sneaks on and kills Scarlet.
How did she kill Scarlet? I must have missed that.
She's got a gun.
I honestly thought Scarlet got blasted in the fight, and that we just ended up seeing it later.
No. It explicitly says that the ninja... Scarlet dies in protagonist's arms, and as she falls, ninja bounty hunter is there with a silenced gun.
Oh. I didn't think she's there with a silenced gun because she just used it. I thought she's there and has a gun as well. And I was like, okay, and it's pointed at our guy, and it's pointed at the protagonist, but yeah, okay, no, that makes more sense. Okay. Because then he has a moment where he's like, so many times have I been faced with death, and just now I'm just am gonna embrace it, and he's almost ready for the ninja woman to kill him, and she doesn't. She just takes Scarlet and leaves for her 50 million bounty.
After that,
I think
protagonist immediately goes to the airlock after Ninja leaves, and does this thing where he enters most of the code to release the airlock. But then can't push the last button, and then he talks about how he does that every night and never goes through with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's the end of the chapter.
Does he not go on to O'Shea's ship at that point as well and tell Cricket to come and attack him?
Yeah, he does do that.
Because he goes on to O'Shea's ship.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's his first thing.
He wants Cricket to attack him so that he can just have it basically like a suicide by police or whatever, like you pull your gun on the cops,
right?
And then they kill you because you pulled a gun on them. Some people do that. Like that's what they were trying to do at the first episode of Breaking Bad, suicide by the police or whatever. Like he pulled a gun out on him, knowing that they were probably going to kill him, and then he goes to kill himself, and then it didn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cricket ends up rubbing up on his legs and starts loving on him like a sweet little leopard golden. Or wait, leopard lab. What does it say?
Yeah,
Labrador?
Yeah, I think that's the cross that he comes up with is like Labrador and leopard or whatever.
Labrador. Anyway, then it's chapter 18. There's another beacon out there.
New beacon.
Yeah, it's referred to as a blinking star. Sounds just, to me, the way they describe it, it sounds like an annoying light that's not turning off at night.
Yeah.
But he ends up saying, like, how did I pass the time before this beacon was out there, like, for me to look at? And he even goes through mental things where he thinks about, other ships have used this as a waypoint to get out to the, on their journeys or whatever.
Yeah, like
so,
temporary
this might not even be,
yeah.
like, a permanent beacon.
But then he puts on the QT to NASA to ask what's going on, and they said, no, it's a new beacon. It's just a redundancy thing. Since you fucked up, we need another one out there.
Yeah.
They don't say that explicitly, but that's what it is.
Yeah, all that freaking debris.
He surmises, yeah. And then we learned that Cricket has become Protect's pet. He hid her in the GWB tower when the people came to retrieve Mitch's corpse in his ship.
When NASA came.
And then after that, this whole chapter is just introspection.
Oh, we also learned that that Cricket gets drunk off the GWB or GWB, yeah, B, because he puts her up in the room with it, and then he said when he pulled her out, she's a little loopy. So
yeah,
I don't know. That probably didn't matter, but I just thought it was funny.
Oh yeah, it's just all a bunch of introspection.
He's really hard on himself.
Thinks about a bunch of stuff that happened, and then there's a bunch of talk about relationships in the army and stuff like that, and how people in the army deal with that sort of thing. Yeah,
I think also at one point, probably what takes him down that depression loophole or rabbit hole or whatever was like there was a ship that passed by that had a lot of his but
people from the same company he was in, and he assumes some of them may have been, if any of them are still alive, some of them may have been people that he served with in that same company. Yeah, so he does like his little silent salute and his beacon to that passing ship, and that probably got the memory wheels rolling or whatever. Right. And we also find out that Cricket has been keeping the protagonist away from the airlock in his suicide ritual. Yeah. That's the end of the chapter, effectively. Chapter 19, Cricket's freaking out about something and gets his attention to look out at the beacon. The beacon is, the lights are sending out an SOS. It's a Morse code light. -- SOS. Yeah, so they're sending out an SOS. He goes with Cricket. He puts on his lifeboat, basically his space suit. Yeah, his walk suit, and then the lifeboat, which is his extra little spaceship, and he goes out to go check on the SOS. I don't even think he tells NASA. I think he just sends out a message. Oh, okay. He's like, "There's an SOS coming from the other beacon," and then he just goes because there's a little talk about how he doesn't wait for a response from NASA because in space, whenever somebody's in trouble, you immediately go. Nobody would be able to survive if that wasn't like the unspoken thing. And I don't know if it was this chapter or the last chapter where they talk about Worthens being... I think he talks about it a little bit here. Okay. Saying that he sort of realizes that... Cricket's an empath. It's able to not only just feed off of his emotions like, dogs and cats and other animals do, but also seems to be able to get some of his thoughts. And it seems to be thoughts that are just of like like a basic nature. Like he probably could think of like a picture of Cricket laying down, and Cricket would probably lay down, But, But I don't not full on mind reading, but he's able to get Cricket's able to get the gist of what he's trying to put across. Cricket doesn't know English, so so he goes to go check it out. As he's getting close to the beacon, he brings Cricket with him. Well, Cricket, he brings himself. Cricket brings herself. So as he's getting closer to the beacon, he sees the number on the beacon. It's beacon 1529. Ooh, I didn't even remember that. I wonder if that matters. 1529. Yeah, it may or may not. I mean, it's It's a permanent installation unless in the next section it gets blown up.
Fuck.
Yeah, I think it's just to give some perspective. He has a thought about it. For. So he docks. As he's docking, his ship is reading that there's no atmosphere reading being given out by the beacon, so that's why he suits up all the way to go into the beacon. Enters the beacon. Chapter 20. He's going through the beacon. He ends up getting up to the where the command center is.
Yeah, he goes around checking other rooms, like the
living quarters
lifeboat,
and that sort of thing.
Living,
Doesn't find anything. Mm-hmm. Gets to the command center, and there's legs sticking out from under the command desk or whatever.
Like in the Wizard of Oz with the witch in the house.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. Touches it, it kind of kicks back, and then he grabs it again to pull it out or whatever, and she is like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, who's grabbing me?
And so that's the end of that chapter. So then, start of the chapter, we realize, having found this woman who's alive and not dead in the zero atmosphere, this is how we figure out that there's actually atmosphere in the beacon. There's nothing going on.
Oh, see, I thought that happened in the chapter 2.
It might happen right before that.
It seemed like all of chapter 20 was we go in, we meet this person who we find out is a tuner. They go in to fix the ship and calibrate it, make sure it's working properly. Mm-hmm. It was funny the way you said it earlier. It's a very long roundabout way of the protagonist just not giving his name.
Yeah, they do introductions. Find out her name is Claire. She's a tuner, like you were saying. Her whole thing is going out and getting the beacons ready for the operators. She complains about how NASA's built a couple of thousand of these things and they still can't get it right, so that it just fucking works the first time.
Right.
She has to go out and get them working.
She also has rust brown hair, so, red. Mm-hmm. There's a hue of red in there.
He's got a bit of an affinity for redheads, this author.
Yeah.
Which I get,
No, I can get that, yeah. I think they talk about the wartime, too. He doesn't learn much about her, if she was in the war or anything, but he says his name was Digger because he was going to be Tomb
That was his
Digger.
Call sign as a pilot.
Okay,
and then there's this short story about how his
squad leader
CO was just caught him picking his nose or whatever. It's like, "Oh, you're not Tomb Digger, you're just Digger," and just giving him shit about it or whatever. So then it stuck. God, that was a lot of effort for us to not find out the protagonist's name.
Yeah, and a whole backstory about this fake name. But anyway, so they end up getting whatever she was working on working again, teamwork, and then close the chapter. 21.
Chapter 21, he goes back to the beacon, to Beacon 23.
Back home to 23.
And then it's just a ton of internal dialogue about relationships.
He was like, this place feels tired. But, that makes sense after you tell me what number we're on. We're on 1529.
Yeah, we've got this spanking new beacon that hasn't had anybody operate it yet. It's
got a really pretty girl in it. It's
like a fresh car.
Yeah. Yeah, those come with pretty girls in them too, right?
Sometimes, I assume.
Sometimes, yeah. And so he's hanging out with Cricket. We end up learning about his best friend Hank from his from Company B or whatever. And he talks about how he only knew Hank for 2 weeks, but that's enough time to know that you truly care about somebody or whatever. And he ends up saying at this point that he's kind of afraid to commit to anybody, even on a friend level, because he knows that at some point they're going to die or they're going to leave or he's going to fuck up or something. Yeah. It can't be perfect. And, that's no way to live. You can't live just thinking about all the negative stuff that's going to happen. Of course they're going to leave, but you got to enjoy the time that they're there. Come on, man. Anyway, so we're on 22.
Yes. Move on to 22.
Yeah, not much happened in that last chapter.
He's having, it's just all the introspection about relationships. Mm-hmm. So chapter 22, he's dreaming about his old company. He's having, several nightmares at once.
Yeah, you wake up in school with no clothes on or whatever, and he ends up peeing his pants, and, that was a whole, there were, I don't know how you pee your pants
a bunch of stuff going
on, but...
And then all the nightmares sort of coalesce into one thing. And then he gets woken up by Claire on the radio. He's
sleeping with Cricket. Cricket's in the bed with him. It's cute.
So he wakes up, rushes to the command center to respond to Claire. She needs him to do a favor. She can't get her GWB to calibrate because of all the debris. So she wants him to send out a big blast from his GWB.
Give me those old Beacon 23 files.
Well, it's not like a file transmission. What he does,
but no, say it.
I think what it says is that he tells it to do like a full blast or something like that.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that it already being calibrated to everything that's in the area can get the proper reading in a big blast, and then so that her GWB can pull off of that.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. See, I didn't realize that. It just seemed to me like she just got data from him, but the whole point of it was just that he was excited that this girl called him in the middle of the night, and he thought that she wanted him to come over and help out with something.
Right, yeah.
And, not even sexual. He just wanted to hang out with a buddy. He was excited for company.
Right.
Literal just friendship.
So he does his favor, and then she says something, thanks, if there was a bar nearby, I'd buy you a drink.
Yeah, if there's a bar within spitting distance, I'd buy you a drink. And he's like, I've got something better. And he goes over to her crib.
Yeah, we got a what you doing situation. You up?
You up?
There's so then chapter 23 starts. He brings some WD-40 as a joke.
For a beacon warming present. WD-80.
Yeah. It's WD-40.
It's better. It's 80.
It's 80. It's 40 formulas later.
Yeah. Oh, is that what the 40 stands for?
Yeah, so WD-40, water displacement formula 40.
Oh, okay. The formula 80s for space stuff.
Is
space
copyright purposes.
Oh, yeah. We learned that she was in the army.
Yeah, he brings the WD-40 as a joke, but what he really wants to do is show her how the GWB gives you a buzz.
Oh, yeah.
So they go to the GWB and the new beacon. They sit down around the GWB and they're just kind of chilling. And then he asks what she did before being a tuner. Finds out that she was in the army. Not only was she in the army, but she was in Company A, who was there for the same push that he was there for the day that the last day that he fought.
That was a bit of like a
some talk about that. Yeah, he's like, oh shit, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
He gets really conflicted about everything, and then he leaves the beacon.
Yeah, the day kind of comes to a close. He kind of thinks about how like as she's walking him to his lifeboat, he's like, this is kind of like the end of a date. How like she could be walking me to my car or my house or whatever, and they got kind of a little vibe together, like he didn't know if like she was gonna kiss him or if like they were gonna kiss, or if there was anything there, and there wasn't. She was just she ends up just saying like he ends up like I think he ends up seeing like the look on her face, and it's not a look of lust, it's a look of like, are you okay? Like if there's anything that I can ever like, if you ever need anyone to talk to. I'll be there for you. And he's just like, what good does talking ever do? And he's just kind of, and then he goes down his freaking dark little self-pity rabbit hole, and then he gets into his lifeboat and he thinks about some of the stuff that she said, hindsight 2020, and he's like, she's going back to Houston in a few days, like a glancing ray of sunshine or death without dying. It's just like, Jesus, dude. Yeah. He's just so like dark, and he's talking about how she's only there for a couple days, so she's going to be like that glancing ray of sunshine that leaves right after, like that, like right after you get used to it. And he basically just says it again, like, I can't commit because she's leaving already. Like she's leaving in 3 days. I can't be friends with this person. Like, yeah. Sorry to just sort of talk.
No. Yeah. That's all that it is, really. I mean, that's not all that it is. He's got like. He's, for the same reason that he ran out of bed to go answer the radio, for the same reason that whenever he finished with the favor and she made a joke about drinks, he was sort of conflicted for a second. He was like, he wants to go see her, but he's conflicted because he knows he doesn't want to get close.
Probably has anxiety too.
Yeah, he's sort of like built, because certainly after Scarlett dying in his arms not too long ago, and this being the first woman that he's seen in a while, and he's sort of putting her on a pedestal. Whenever he first sees her, he talks about how she's like the most gorgeous thing ever. But internally, he realizes that it may just be because he hasn't seen anybody in a while, period. That he's just super excited about having someone to talk to. Or maybe she just is that beautiful. He doesn't really know. Yeah. And so he just keeps building her up to be this saint figure.
Sounds accurate. Claire's pretty sweet.
But she's probably just as normal a person as anybody else. It's just that the protagonist is building her up so that it can mean that much more when she comes down to his level in a minute.
They're doing an Up on us.
It's just storytelling.
They're getting us like they did with Up, how they make you fall in love with that dude.
And it's storytelling in a really realistic fashion, because I've definitely put people on pedestals that they not that they didn't deserve to be thought of highly, but there's no reason for them to be put on a pedestal like I've put them on. I've definitely sanctified people.
Dude, I did that the other day when Ari Shaffir came into town for his comedy show at Cap City. He stayed after for like 10 minutes, and I like had a freaking panic attack. Like I got starstruck. Like I couldn't. Like I put him on this pedestal. Like, oh, he didn't want to talk to me or whatever.
Right.
And then Bailey was like, "What are you doing? Like, come inside. Like he's right there. Like we need to meet him." And I was like, "No, it's okay." And she's like, "Well, I want to get a picture with him, so you have to come and take a picture." So I ended up going in, and I had a little like present for him that I gave him that was cool. So, but anyway, like I got super starstruck, and I couldn't handle like going in to see this guy that I put on some pedestal, and he literally is not even going to remember what I look like. You know what I mean? So like, it's just, why would I care so much?
So that's the end of the chapter. Chapter 24 starts out him going on about relationships in the Army and how people deal with those relationships, about how Army hate and Army love can take no time to develop and disappear just as quickly. And then there's a guy named Tex who... Oh, that's a little bit later in this chapter, but it's just all more talk about relationships and separating yourself from them and all this sort of stuff and everything that he's been doing.
Yeah, he talks kind of about how he became an asshole by the end of his first tour of duty, which is the thing he said he wouldn't be.
What he called assholes in the beginning, but then he sort of came to realize that that's not what they were.
They're just like
it
him
was
now,
just like,
where he doesn't want to get to know anybody.
Give you all the advice in the world about how to survive because they want you to survive, but they don't want to know your name and they don't want to know your backstory because everybody's afraid of getting attached and losing another person.
And especially if you're in like a teaching position or whatever, or like a leadership position, and you're not actually out there risking. I mean, you could be out there risking, but if you're not necessarily on the front line, then I mean, you know for sure if you got dudes on the front line, you're gonna lose some. Like, that's the front line.
Well, dude. Everybody that he talks about in this situation is on the front line because they're all at the offensive.
Yeah, you're gonna lose somebody though, man. Like, it's the front line. Anyway, Claire surprised him.
Yeah, she just shows up unannounced.
Hello.
Cricket freaks out and rushes down there, pins her down on the ground. He rushes down there, gets Cricket to chill out.
He thinks it really, really loudly, like, sit.
And so this is Cricket being revealed to another person. She's like, that's super not regulation. You can't be doing that. What is wrong with you?
She ended up being super great with it, though. Like, Cricket ends up just
after she gets over the initial fear, she's like, what is that? It's the curiosity of an engineer.
And she, like, goes and loves on it and pets on it like a regular dog or leopard pet. Pet leopard.
Like a regular old house leopard.
Yeah. And she ends up like kind of confronting him, like, how come?
Yeah, she's over. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And she's like, "I came over to see if there's anything I could do because I'm going to be leaving soon." Blah blah.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned that your beacon's all messed up. Like, I thought I could help. I'm a tuner.
And then he's pushing her away because of everything that we've been talking about, everything that he's been talking about.
And she then calls him on it.
Yeah, calls him on it. She last second like reaches out and grabs her because he realizes that he can't actually handle her. He doesn't want her to go. Blah blah. And then there's a confrontation about it. Her calling him out on the bullshit.
Yeah, because he's not unique, and she's exactly like him. And then we end up finding that she's
got some sort of scar as well.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then so she's the same as him. Blah blah blah.
She literally had like the same wound. Like they both got gutted by a reef or something.
The way that it sort of describes his is that it's just like one big tear. Mm-hmm. Hers he describes as being like a spider web of scarring.
Oh, okay.
So it might be a little bit different, but a mortal wound nearly all the same.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So then he calls him on his bullshit. He realizes like, oh, I'm not special in my sadness. Yeah. Everybody that went through what we went through is fucked up, and I'm not the only one that's super fucked up about the war. And everybody cries for a bit, and that's about it.
That's the end. Yeah, it kind of gave you a little vibe that there might be a little sexual tension there. There probably isn't, because he ends up saying, gone is the allure of having sex with this woman, and gone is the allure of us growing old together and having kids and a normal life and blah, blah, blah. He ends up just kind of, I think that could have also been him doing the self-pity thing where he's just beating himself up and super down, but I don't think that anything physically romantic happens. I think it's just...
I think what all that dialogue is supposed to... At least what it gave off to me was that, because he had talked earlier about, in a couple of previous chapters, like I think maybe whenever he was over at the other beacon for the second time, he talks about how sex is just like ultra casual in the Army because it's like, what else are we going to do? And we're going to die tomorrow, so whatever.
Right.
So he thinks that maybe that's something that could, but not and he never says that he's looking forward to it maybe being on the table in this situation, but
he just doesn't know if it is.
Yeah, exactly. He's just
confused.
Is it something that might happen? Is it not something that might happen? He doesn't really know how he feels about either option.
He's also been kind of out of the loop too, being up in that beacon for 6 months or probably 8 or 9 months now.
And so then this part is where he's supposed to be letting go of all the old preconceptions and all the old habits that he had from being in the army and being closed off and callous to everything. So he's not gone is the allure of having sex with this woman, even in a casual state, because that's not something that he would do anymore, because now he's releasing all of that old him.
Yeah.
Is apparently what's happening now.
That's a good way to say it. That's probably exactly what they were doing. Yes, it said, a fellow wounded, and they cry like the universe is about to end.
And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, that was 24. So we just got here to the end, and then we're donezo with this series.
I've got a bit of a head start because I accidentally read chapter 25 when I was reading, and then today when I was doing my notes, I accidentally read chapter 25 and did notes on chapter 25.
You're just ahead for next week. You're ready.
I've got I'm 5 pages ahead of everybody.
Well, from here to the end, we got it. So it's, it's only about 2 more hours of audio.
It's just another 12 chapters, isn't it? To read them all. God, I really don't know.
I'm a super slow reader, so when I read it, I take my sweet time.
I think I'm relatively medium speed. It depends on what's going on. I can definitely get distracted and have to read over and over again. But if I'm able to focus and get through it, I think I could probably kill these next 12 chapters in pretty easily 2.5 to 3 hours. I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so about the same. And then next week, did you want to decide on?
Yeah, we should probably go ahead and choose another book next week as well.
Yeah, I think it would be fun to table the 2 we have and get a whole new set, and potentially a whole new set with a whole new genre that we haven't touched yet, because I thought it was a lot of fun how we went from a modern fantasy to a science fiction. And
so they just totally change tack again?
Either do that, or we go back, or we go to a full fantasy, or like an older fantasy. We could do that, like a medieval style fantasy, or we could even just go straight, let's read a horror book, or let's read not romance. Yeah. Let's read I don't want to read a romance novel on here.
Let's read a romance novel.
The Sword and the Sheath.
The Sword and the Sheath, that classic.
And so I don't know.
Shout
I thought
out
it might
to
be
Reed.
Yeah, and I thought it might be fun to maybe get a different book like that.
I think that's a good idea. And then we keep hopping around like this for sure.
And then we can obviously revisit any of them. We can
feel like a mystery could be kind of fun, because in the same way that we had some predictions that we were trying to make with Neverwhere, and the way that we make Game of Thrones predictions, where it's just a narrative prediction. Where is this going to go? Mystery predictions are a whole nother game of predictions.
Oh yeah, and that's all they're writing about too.
That's the whole point is giving you red herrings and leads going this direction. It's a giant puzzle. Yeah. It's a narrative puzzle. That could definitely be cool. I think you're right. We should definitely jump to not do either modern fantasy or sci-fi again in this next book. Move on to something completely different.
I definitely do want to read those other 2 books. I don't know if that's something you want to do, just maybe on the side, and just we could have just a blast episode where we talk about the book, or
Warbreaker is a full-on fantasy.
Yeah,
so that could be part of the running.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Saturn Run seems like it's going to be hard sci-fi, so that might need to be for later down the road, because that's going to be. I don't want to assume that it'll be a bit of a slog, but it could be a bit of a slog.
Yeah,
and it may end up being one that we should just do a 1 episode on.
Yeah,
where we read the whole thing and then just talk about it in 1 episode. Just one hour and a half, deal. But so we'll pick a book next week as well.
Yeah, thoughts on that would be appreciated. So tweet at us, hit us up on the social media.
Yeah, if anybody has suggestions, throw those to us and we'll take them into consideration.
Yeah, ears_stamps.
At ears_stamps on Twitter, Instagram, as well as on Instagram. I'm at I Throw Napalm on Instagram. That's all the social media presence that we really have.
Dog ears and timestamps at gmail.com if you want to email us. Other than that, it's pretty much, we're going to knock this book out. 1 more week, guys. We got this.
We're almost through it.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see, 1, how the Claire thing ends, and then 2, whatever the 3rd and final arc is going to be. Well, I guess whatever it's not, because we had, first was Wreck, second was Rocky.
Third was the Bounty Hunters. The 4th one being Companion.
Claire.
The Companion.
So we've got
Beacon.
Maybe the ending of the Claire thing, and then one more or maybe even two more short stories.
Yeah, maybe even two fused into one book, because it's the end of this universe as we know it, or at least as he's written so far. So
I think there's more that takes place in the universe.
Oh, okay.
But this will be it for Beacon 23.
Right.
The,
cool. Yeah. No, that'll be fun to see what happens.
So we'll talk to y'all next week. I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this was Dog Ears and Timestamps. Fucking Atlanta has 20 points. The Giants have 12 points. They're about to kick a field goal to make it 15 points. How is Atlanta only 5 points ahead of the Giants? They're the second worst team in the league. It's pathetic. That's why you lost the Super Bowl, Matt Ryan.